Hello everyone, and welcome back to the video. I'm the Last Wonder, and today we've got Snapshot 21w07a, which once again completely changes the underground of Minecraft. This time, the depths of the world are now filled with the new block, Grimstone. Above Y level 0, for the most part, caves still look like what they did in the previous snapshot, though larger caves were made a bit rarer, and has been confirmed in the future, smaller caves will become a little bit more common. But once you move below Y0 and into the negatives, you'll notice that stone begins to transition into the new Grimstone block. And all the way down, the rest of the world is mostly comprised of this new block. Although Grimstone and regular stone look very different, they actually share certain characteristics. For instance, both Grimstone and regular stone have the same blast resistance. Also, Grimstone can be substituted in for certain crafting recipes that require cobblestone, like the brewing stand, stone tools, the furnace. Pretty much anything that you can substitute blackstone in for, you can also substitute Grimstone in for. As you might have noticed in the beginning of my video, Grimstone also has many variants. There's the regular variants, polished, the bricks, and a new subset of blocks, tiled Grimstone. And of course, there's also chiseled Grimstone. Now, each of these variants of Grimstone also has an accompanying stair, wall, and slab, except for the chiseled variant. Oh, and funnily enough, Grimstone crafting recipes are a tad bit incomplete at the moment. For instance, you can make polished Grimstone in a crafting table, but you can't in a stone cutter. Also, as you can see, these variants of Grimstone and these polished variants are the only ones you can currently craft at the moment. The other recipes are missing. So, if you're playing the snapshot, don't panic, you currently can't craft them, but it's going to be added in the future. This was just a slight oversight. One of the most important things to know about Grimstone is that it's harder than stone. Even if you have an efficiency 5 netherite pickaxe with haste 2, you cannot insta-mine Grimstone. This means that it'll be significantly harder to clear out large areas at the bottom of your world. Well, that is, unless you're clearing out a space that's already in a large cave. Grimstone doesn't really have too much of a technical purpose, but from a visual and build design, for one thing, you can see that it fills the gap between stone and bedrock. It's got a noisier texture than stone, but less than bedrock. And it's got a gray color that's somewhere in between the two of them. This also applies for Grimstone, Blackstone, and Stone, whereas regular stone's a light gray, Blackstone's black, and then in the middle, you've got Greystone, which is a very dark gray. This is especially apparent in the brick variants of these blocks, where as you can see, Grimstone stands out as sort of a metallic gray color. This also means that it might be possible to transition between stone and blackstone, or just between blackstone and Grimstone bricks in any of your builds. One other similarity between stone and Grimstone is that moss will convert surrounding Grimstone into moss, just like it does with stone. Something else you might have noticed in these new depths is that there's no granite, there's no dirt, there's no diorite, and there's no gravel. The only block of this variant that spawns is andesite, and it also spawns in larger patches than it did before, which is actually a change made to all of these variants of blocks. It's just andesite is the only variant that will now spawn below Y0, which is a bit weird considering gravel blends with the new Grimstone just as well as andesite does. As you can see in this cave that's higher up, there are less splashes of andesite, diorite, granite, gravel, and dirt. It's just they spawn in larger quantities though, like this granite patch, the diorite patch, and the andesite over here. Some last things to know about these new Grimstone depths is it can be quite dark down here, especially with how dark the Grimstone texture is. It's so dark that even though I have my gamma turned all the way up, I can barely see, and that's before YouTube even compresses the video. which is, of course, why I was recording my earlier segments using the night vision effect. Another thing to know is that this is where the deep dark will spawn. The deep dark will spawn exclusively below Y0, although this entire area will not just be the deep dark. Other cave biomes can spawn down here as well. The deep dark biome, along with the warden and new skulk blocks, will only comprise a small portion of these new Grimstone depths. This snapshot also saw some minor changes to some underground structures. For instance, mine shafts, which were touched upon last week, have once again had small changes. For instance, the wood pillars that support them are now actually made of logs instead of wood anymore. Along with that, they can also now be supported by these chains and fence posts. The game can now just decide between the two when generating mine shafts. The other structure with small changes is the stronghold, which will now no longer be exposed by the large noise caves that generate. Instead, they'll generate this sort of protective shell around them. However, strongholds can still be intersected by the smaller cave type. Besides the introduction of Grimstone, there was one other significant change in this snapshot, and that's with ore distribution. But before we get to that, there have been some significant changes to the textures of some ores. Notably, coal, gold, iron, and redstone look nothing like they did before. Although, the gold in the gold ore does resemble the gold sticking out of the nether gold ore. The ores that weren't changed, well, the overworld ores that is, are diamond, copper, lapis, and emerald. Though diamond was changed in a slight way, it's not very noticeable though. The reason these ores were changed was for accessibility reasons, so they can be easily distinguished without having to see their colors. Back to ore distribution. When this snapshot came out, this helpful chart was linked to the article. Now, this chart here shows what the new ore distribution is, or rather, the first iteration of the new ore distribution. This could all change in the future, but it gives us a pretty good idea of what they're planning on doing with this new distribution. On the right, you can see this chart's legend, which shows what color each ore is, and it shows how much of that ore should generate at each Y level. In the center, you can see what the ore distribution looked like in Minecraft 1.16, and on the left, you can see what it looks like now in Snapshot 20w07a. Something very notable about this chart is that it shows ores can now generate well over Y level 128, which is what they were restricted to before. The three ores that can generate over are obviously iron, emerald, and coal. What's the most interesting is that emerald actually spawns in the greatest quantities at Y level 256. Also, there appears to be 2 veins of iron, with the second maxing out at around 256 as well. To test the accuracy of this chart, I actually opened up this amplified world and went to a mountains biome where emeralds generate. And sure enough, up high in the world, emeralds, coal, and iron all generate. But what's especially interesting is the chart ends at Y256, but these ores continue generating above that level. So these ores will probably generate all the way up to build limit, if they can. Back at the chart, 2 different lapis ore veins are also shown. But if I enlarge the word written on the second ore vein, you can see it says berry, which basically means this ore vein will generate like ancient debris does. It'll only generate if it's not exposed to any cave air. I should also point out that the 2 yellow ore distribution veins you see are for 2 different ores. The one on the top left, which is a darker yellow, is for copper, and the one on the bottom right is for gold. Similar to the old distribution, ores like redstone and diamond are still most common at the bottom of the world. But certain ores don't go all the way to the bottom of the world anymore. For instance, copper and coal don't even manage to generate down at Grimstone layers. They stop at Y level 0. Iron, on the other hand, just barely manages to make it into layers with Grimstone, generating down to -16. And that's not even counting emerald, which doesn't generate below Y level 32. Speaking of Grimstone, there are 5 ores that generate in the Grimstone depths: redstone, iron, diamond, lapis, and gold. Currently, they sorely stick out in this terrain, since these ores use stone as their background. But it has been confirmed that perhaps as soon as next snapshot, a new variant of these ores could come out with Grimstone in their background, as seen in this image here. This new ore distribution also means you'll see some ores higher, like iron, which can now generate up to Y level 80, and copper, which can generate now up to Y level 96. And that also means, while walking around mountains, you might find exposed emeralds. Just to add some of my personal speculation, if we look back at the graph, you'll see that the second iron ore vein starts generating at Y level 128. Now, for the most part, most mountains don't generate that high. But the new mountains we're getting in 1.17 could generate that high. As a matter of fact, they could generate extremely high, considering the ore distribution of emerald, coal, and iron. These new mountains could possibly generate well above Y level 200. This is also a cool way to incentivize players to climb these new mountains, since you'll find resources on the top. But we still have a little bit of time to wait before the new mountain biomes are added in the snapshot. In the meantime, we'll see things like cave biomes and the new lava lakes they'll generate at the bottom of the world. But that's all I've got for now, so thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out some of my previous videos, which, again, were 2 more snapshot reviews. And make sure to come back next time for my next video. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye. I wonder what's the logic for this.